1990. My name is Joe Todd, and this is an interview with Mr. Theodore Minter in Fort Stockton, Texas. So, where were you born?
I was born in Ardmore, Oklahoma, March 24th, 1922.
Who are your parents?
Sir?
Who are your parents?
They're both deceased. Daddy was O.M. Minter. My mother was Lily.
What was her maiden name?
Her maiden name was Bryant.
Right. Okay. When did you join the Army?
In 1940.
Were you drafted or did you enlist?
No, I enlisted. The draft wasn't going at that time, I don't think. No, it started late.
Why did you join the Army over the Navy or the Marines?
Well, to tell you the truth, I'm not real sure, but I wanted in the 1st Cavalry Division, and it was stationed in Fort Bliss, Texas, and I liked Texas, so that's the main reason.
So did you enlist for the 1st Cav?
Yep.
Where did you go to basic?
Fort Bliss, Texas.
And how'd you travel from Ardmore down to Fort Bliss?
Train.
Train? Tell me about basic. What was it like?
Well, it was a little bit rough. We had the same kind of drills you would have in the infantry, plus we had drills horseback. And we had horses at that time. And we had, of course, the riflemen were mounted horseback, and you had machine guns that had pack horses that carried machine guns and ammunition, and mortars the same way, 60 millimeter mortars.
What month and day did you enlist in 1940?
I'm not positive this, but I think August.
August, okay. Was that right before the president called the emergency then? It was September 40 when he called?
I believe so.
Okay.
Sometime late 40s, and then
What type of training did you do on horseback?
well, we were training mostly for sort of pincer movements, circle around instead of hitting head on like the infantry hit head on. We'd circle, where the need is, and then you dismount and deploy it. It's sort of like infantry.
What kind of weapons did you carry on horseback?
We had M1 30 calibers, and then we all had sidearms, 45 automatic.
Carry sabers?
No, they had done away with sabers before I enlisted.
And what unit were you assigned to?
I was in the 8th Cavalry. That's the 2nd Brigade, I guess. 8th Regiment, and at that time I was in F Troop. And then they formed, shortly after I finished recruit training, they formed G Troop, and I went to it.
G Troop, 8th Cavalry?
Yeah.
Now, when you were in basic, were you in the 1st Cav in
Yep.
basic?
Yeah.
Okay.
We took it right there in the division.
What part of Fort Bliss were you located?
And it was in the eastern part of the post. I don't remember any of the streets or anything. The old, last time I was through there several years back, the old stables and everything was still there, but they were garages for trucks and jeeps. They had we were in those permanent barracks, which were 3-story, I believe.
Who were your officers?
My commanding officer of the 8th Cavalry was the name slipped me. Overseas is Haskell Connor. I can't remember who was there just prior to that. General Swift was commander of the 1st Cavalry Division at the time.
After basic, what kind of maneuvers did you go on?
Well, we maneuvered in Louisiana twice, 1941 and 1942, just before we went overseas.
Tell me about the 1941 Louisiana maneuvers.
Well, it was, I guess they was trying to prove the cavalry's worth, because they really worked us. We rode all over Louisiana, and we done a lot of stuff at night. Done a lot of riding at night, traveling to certain points, and wasn't like you would, like the infantry at night digs in and everything. Of course, we had horses, and we had to look after them and put them on picket line and all that stuff.
Were you Blue Army or Red Army?
Blue, I think.
Now, what was the object of the whole Louisiana maneuvers? What was?
Golly, I don't know. At the time, they were, I suppose, they were trying to prove the cavalry's worth as support unit to the cavalry, and you know, some of the cavalry did go to India or somewhere with horses. I think it's the Texas National Guard, 56th Cavalry Brigade. But we were dismounted shortly after Louisiana maneuvers and started jungle training to ship out to Australia.
Did you maneuver along the river, Rio Grande?
We patrolled the border for about 6 months from El Paso, or this side of El Paso somewhere, down to Presidio, Texas, which is south of Marco.
And
down as far as Santa Elena Canyon,
yeah.
I think.
Was there any thought that the Germans might try to invade up through Mexico?
That was some of the thinking. I know they deployed us pretty fast.
Yeah.
From down there.
Now, when you were out patrolling the border, what kind of camp you set up at night?
Well, we had just a sort of typical bivouac. We weren't actually under combat conditions. It was just a field kitchen and of course everything for the horses, feed, everything. And as far as digging in or anything, we didn't. We slept in pup tents, bedroll.
Since there's a large German community in Texas, ever get any feeling that there was pro-Germans in Texas?
I don't remember any feeling like that. Like there was toward the Japs.
Yeah.
Japanese. I don't remember any pro-German.
Tell me about the day you dismounted.
Well, it was kind of a relief in a way, because we knew modern times was taking over, and we had, the war had been going on then for, I guess, nearly a year, and we was kind of anxious to get into it. And they took the horses and we shipped them out by train to New Mexico somewhere, pasture. I don't know where they wound up, but they went to New Mexico to start with on ranch. And then we were issued altogether different clothing and had different training, of course. We trained more like infantry.
What type of uniform did you wear when you first went in?
Well, our summer uniform was khaki with khaki tie and lace-up boots and what they call the old campaign hat or cap. That was the summer uniform, and the uniform was about the same except it was OD.
And then what were you issued when you dismounted? What type of uniform?
We still wore the same until we shipped out overseas. We shipped out overseas. Everything was state clothes. That's all we ever wore, along with jungle sweaters and jungle boots and that kind of stuff.
Now, what was your job in the horse cavalry? What did you do?
Well, I held several jobs. I had been a platoon leader, which was in charge of three squads to tune in the cavalry field. And I had been a horseshoer, squad leader. That's about it, I guess. horse mounted cavalry.
About what was the date when you dismounted? Do you remember what year you dismounted?
That's all kind of fuzzy. I think right after the Louisiana maneuvers in '42.
Mm-hmm. Whenever you were on patrol with the horses, how did you carry the rations for the horses?
We had a grain only in a little sack that tied on the pommel of the saddle.
And how many days' ration for the horses did you carry?
We only had 1 day.
1 day. And how were you
1 day.
resupplied?
We were resupplied by truck.
Mm-hmm. And then when you dismounted, did you get trucks when you dismounted?
No, we in the States we didn't have any. We just like infantry. We did after we started our jungle training. We had jeeps for machine gun ammunition and mortar ammunition and the weapons. And I think it's five to a platoon. And other than that, we were just almost like infantry. And there was very little difference in our tactical operation than the infantry. It wasn't all that much difference. It's just transportation
Yeah.
difference.
Right. I've heard that there were some people in the area that had sons over fighting the Japanese or the Germans that were upset because the first Cav was still in the States.
I don't know that. We wondered about that, and I don't remember hearing anything about it, but we thought it's kind of odd that we were ready to go and still sitting.
Mm-hmm.
But I suppose the idea was to get us trained as well as we could and send us to Australia as a stopgap operation, because the Japs were almost ready to invade Australia.
What did
I guess that's what the
yeah.
order was.
You shipped out of what port?
Camp Stoneman, California. That's where we boarded
That's
ship.
located where?
Not far out of San Francisco. I don't know exactly how far.
And what ship did you go over
We
on?
went over on the luxury liner St. Mary's.
Tell me about the trip to Australia.
Well, I sort of enjoyed it. I had just no country boy, never been on the ocean before, and it was interesting for a day or two. It got a little old toward the end. I couldn't hardly get used to everywhere you looked was water, and uphill looked like you was in a valley and water all over. You know. But yeah, the conditions weren't bad at all.
You get seasick?
I did one time. I was posting the guard on the bottom of this ship, and it was awful hot. I got seasick at one time.
What type of food did you have on the ship?
We had excellent food. I guess, I don't think our cooks prepared it. I think maybe it was a crew that stayed on that ship.
Now, St. Mary's, is it an American ship or British?
Yeah, it was American. Well, now I'm not positive of that, because it was a sister ship to the, what's it?
Queen Mary?
Queen Mary, I guess.
Yeah.
Or I think that's what they said.
How many troops were on the ship?
I think all of us was on there, and I don't know exactly what the TO was at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but we had no escort or nothing, because the ship was fast and didn't have to worry about submarines.
I was going to say, ever have any contact with the Japanese ships?
No. We didn't have any contact, and the ship was so fast that it could outrun any sub. And we did have some drills on board ship, abandoned ship, and all this stuff.
If you had to abandon ship, what were you supposed to do?
Well, they had. I don't think they had enough lifeboats, but it didn't look like to me. But anyhow, we drilled just like you would on any ship. The old ladders let down, and the lifeboats put in the water, down the ladder and into the boat.
Mm-hmm. And where'd you land in Australia?
At Brisbane, Australia.
Is that north, south, or?
It's further north than it is south. It's sort of central like. I believe.
They're on the east side of Australia.
Yes, it's there's another. I can't think of any little towns except one right on the beach was Sandgate. It was more or less a resort type.
Had the Battle of Coral Sea occurred at this time? Was it going on?
I think it was going on. The Japs already had New Guinea, and Australian people were evacuating everyone in Australia back to a line close to Brisbane, somewhere there. I don't remember where the line was, but all of northern Australia was evacuated back to there.
What was the reaction of the Australians to the American soldiers?
We were pretty well received.
There were a couple of towns that were bombed by the Japanese in Australia.
In Australia, that was northern, extreme northern tip, I think. About right, just a little ways from. Well, it's not far across there from there to New Guinea.
And how long did you stay in Australia?
We were there not very long. Golly, I want to say somewhere around 3 months or something. We were there long enough that we formed another troop, which was H troop in each squadron, and it was a heavy machine gun and heavy mortar, and I went to it in H troop as the first sergeant. And it was formed in Australia, and shortly after that we shipped out to the, let's see, from there we went to New Guinea for just a sort of a staging deal, and our first landing was Leyte, what's the name of those islands? Admiralty Island.
What type of training did you have in Australia?
About the same. We trained mostly like for all-around perimeter defense at night, and jungle. We trained, there's quite a bit of jungle in Australia, and we trained the best that we could is what we'd run into in the jungle, like trail, traveling the trail and ambushes and all this kind of stuff.
And what was your reaction when you were shipping out and getting ready for your first landing? What were your thoughts?
Well, I was sort of gung-ho. I was ready. And I think possibly everybody was. Seemed spiritually good. Well,
Tell me, explain how you hit the beaches in the Admiralty Islands.
We landed real nice. Landed high and dry. You know, we run them right up on the beach. But there was a bluff not too far back. Of course, we had to scale that.
How high was that?
I'd say it's around 20 foot or so. The sector we landed in. It was pretty sandy, but there was lots of roots and stuff hanging out of you. Could climb it real easy. So we really didn't encounter any fire right there on the beach. It softened it up pretty good.
When did you first go into combat? You first met the Japanese?
That night, we dug in the all-around perimeter and everything. During the night, we had a little attack, which everybody was excited and fired too much, and we had to go through the calming down experience and all this. And from there on, we was engaged nearly every day because we were moving all the time.
Would you relate some of the experiences that you had there, just after that?
Well, one of my most notable was that night. My first landing was, I had this heavy machine gun platoon, and they all got excited and was firing because there was flares going up down the woods, you know, and everything. They switched position and everything. Things kind of got out of control, and I had to crawl from my foxhole to each gun and get them to slow down because I was afraid he was going to run out of ammunition or burn up the guns or something, you know. But we had sound power telephones, but of course they wasn't paying no attention to that. they throwed them down was shooting. So it's kind of hairy for, I don't know, it's all over with an hour or so that night. But it kind of took the edge off, and from there on it was pretty calm. We'd have a few attack every night, and snipers and stuff, but they were backing up and we was coming forward, so it wasn't any real heavy combat in our sector.
And how long were you in the Admiralties?
God, I don't know. Let's see, I was trying to think of the name of the island we landed on. And then we took one other little island, and then we were settled there in a camp for, seemed to me like around a month or so, and then we shipped out again.
And from the Admiralties, where'd you go?
From the Admiralties, we made a landing in I guess in the Philippines. From the Admiralties or something. But I'm kind of fuzzy on it. We made several landings. I think we made 2 landings in the Admiralties, but I don't remember the name of the islands. And then I think when that was all over with, I think our next major landing was in the Philippines, not on the, what's the one the capital's on?
Luzon?
Yeah, it wasn't on Luzon, it was on
Leyte?
Leyte. We landed at Leyte, which was a pretty good.
Tell me about that.
Well, it was awesome. We were on board ship, and they started the ships firing and the airplane, the bombing and the strafing and all this started somewhere around midnight and went on till shortly before our landing, which was just about daybreak. And it was just bright as day, so much ammunition and stuff in there, tracers. It was, I couldn't see how there could possibly be anybody alive on the beach, but they were. And we landed early. I don't know how we landed at what time it was, anyhow, early in the morning. And our mission was to take the airstrip. I can't remember the name of it, but anyhow, we accomplished that without an awful lot of trouble. Had a small attack that night, didn't amount to a whole lot. And but from there, we fought around over that island some, and we made a landing on another Philippine island, but I don't remember what the name was. It might have been Mindanao.
Yeah, there weren't Mindanao.
May have been. Anyhow, we landed on it and went from one end to the other.
Had many close calls?
I had very few. I had one of crawling on my belly and got my back shot off my back, but I never was wounded. And of course, I guess it's all kind of close, but I never was wounded or anything.
Was that in Leyte
Or
Mindanao?
Leyte, I believe. Yeah.
And how long before you invaded Luzon?
That's what gets me is time. When we landed on Luzon, it was a secure landing. We didn't land as a landing force, an assault force. We landed there to prepare for the flying column into Manila.
Yeah. I understand that the Japanese Navy was approaching either at Leyte, was it Leyte, when the Japanese Navy had come down and getting ready to?
I believe when we were on Leyte, I believe is when they stopped as far as the Navy.
Yeah.
Japanese Navy. Because I don't think they had any sea power left when we went into Manila.
Now, what was the reason for the flying column?
Well, our objective was to not to fight our way into Manila, but to just blow a hole and go through it, go right on into the city proper. And my particular mission which was H Troop was my troop, and another one. Our mission was to go to Santa Tomas. One of them mission, I believe, was F Troop, I think, was to go to the capital. And the other one never did get through the middle of town. I forgot what their mission was. It seemed like it was an airstrip. Tried to get to a certain area. It seemed like that's what it was. But we accomplished ours, and the ones that went to the capital, they accomplished theirs pretty early.
Now, when you first heard what you were going to do, what was your reaction to go behind Japanese lines?
Well, it was kind of hairy feeling, because we knew there were lots of them, and but we were pretty well prepared. We had, well, I don't know about any of them except my immediate. We had 5 tanks, and jeeps and machine guns, and trucks and machine guns, and everything, and we were all loaded on trucks and stuff, and our mission was just to blow a hole and keep moving. We had a truck with a dozer on it that we could cross the river with the bridges out with. It just caved the banks off and run through. And we went through lots of troops. One time I was sitting on the front fender of a truck with a M1, and we run through this bunch, and out on the other side somewhere we stopped, and there was 21 bullet holes right under my rear, that front fender back the truck, and that was pretty close. There was lots of ammunition trading places there for every time we'd run into.
How far from where you landed to Santa Tomas?
Let's see, 166 miles, I believe, what this. Some of the write-ups were about. Supposed to have been made in 66 hours, wasn't it?
You scared?
Well, yeah, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't. I think everybody was scared. You kept control, but I wouldn't say scared, I'd just say unnerved, because you didn't know what to expect, traveling through enemy lines and just keep on hitting them. You didn't know what you were going to hit next time. You know what they was calling up.
Did you lose many troops? Did you lose many troops?
We didn't lose too many on the run in there.
Now,
we lost a lot of them after we got in there.
Now, was General Chase head of the flying column? Now, was he with your group?
Yeah, he was. Well, he wasn't with us immediately, but he was in command of the whole flying column. He wasn't division commander, I don't believe. I think he was.
He was a 1-star then.
Yeah, brigade commander.
Yeah.
Actually, brigadier general.
How did you know where you were going?
Well, we had briefings on it and had maps and all this stuff about what we might run into or what we might not, And we were instructed pretty good before we ever left the point of departure. And after that, there was no briefings or anything. You just did what you had to do.
And this is at night, wasn't it?
It was day and night.
Day and night.
I think seemed like one night we had to just camp. I don't remember what happened. We had we couldn't cross the river or something. I don't remember what the trouble was. But we were on the move most of the time.
Was there quite a bit of opposition?
A lot of it on the way up. If we'd had to fought our way in there, it took a year. It looked to me like I haven't seen so many troops, but we didn't. But it wouldn't took that long, I don't guess. But I mean, I didn't see any tanks to speak of, any armor, artillery and mortars and stuff like that. They didn't have much armor.
How were you able to just blow a hole through with all the Japanese?
Well,
there?
we were going. I forget the name of that road. It was mostly this highway, and everybody just. Well, if you drew fire, everybody just opened up and you just keep going and fire. And you we didn't stop and dismount or nothing. We just stayed on vehicles and got after it.
What was the lead tank?
They were attached to my The fight we had was our 7th Recon, which was part of the support group of the 1st Air Division. I wasn't familiar with any of them, didn't know any of them. And I don't want to, I've been asked that question before, but I just don't know. Sure don't. When we got into Santa Tomas, we used the tanks. Santa Tomas had big steel gates in front of the street, and it's a cross street. And we used 3 tanks to block them streets, to keep surprises, and then used 1 tank to break down them gates. And took the other 2. That 2.
And
We took inside.
were you on one of the tanks that crashed the gate?
Yeah, I was. That was part of our job, was protecting him.
So, were you on the lead tank that went to the gate?
Oh, I wasn't in a tank. I was
Yep.
commanding my machine gun out there.
Okay.
But we went in. Just before we crashed the gate, we had some fire, and Colonel Connor got hit, and Captain Gearhart got hit, and there just wasn't many officers left in command. And Colonel Connor told me what to do, and we executed from there.
What did he tell you to do?
To deploy these 3 tanks to Crossroads, and use the second. They were in single file. Use the back 2, the first one to crash the gate, the other one come right on in behind, and we were to be right there with them to keep them blowing the tracks off or whatever, protecting them from the tanks. And that's where we went in.
So, were you on foot with your machine gun? Or?
Yeah, we were on foot.
What was your reaction at that point whenever you were right there at the gate getting ready to crash?
Our buggery. It was not knowing what you was getting into, because it was a big rock wall, a seal gate. Couldn't tell what you was getting into, and it was pretty buggery. I went over the top of the tank, is the way I went. I went in with the first tank, and I went over it and hopped off as the gate fell. Me and I believe Sergeant Davis or one of my section sergeants, and then we spread out from there. And there was another fence inside about wasn't very far back, maybe 50 yards, and a garage building had some limousines parked in and such. We had to go through that fence, and it was all I guess it was chain link or something, and had camouflage on it. You couldn't see through it, so we had another one to go through. But we didn't run into too much opposition, a little, till we started towards the main building of the university. And I was with the lead tank. I was one of the lead men, and I was carrying a spotlight that's plugged into the tank. And best I remember, we went straight into the administration building, and the Japs had already, most of them had gone to the administration building and holed up there on the 2nd floor. So we didn't pull too much opposition, but we couldn't figure out where they were, where they went, before they started pulling back. But there's a fellow met me on this street going in there and told me to call her and he'd show me. And he was, I guess he was a clergyman. Had on a black robe. He led us to the administration building, and sure enough, they were holed up right where he said they were. And I forget how many of them there were. I want to say 165 was just the guards and the people in charge of the prison there. What it amounted to. And we got them hemmed up in there, and we had a little opposition in and around the grounds, and of course the prisoners all went nuts, running to us, and all this. But we got everything under control pretty quick in the university itself.
When you first saw, was this man in the black robe, was he the first prisoner you saw?
Yeah.
What was his reaction?
Oh, I'm a little hesitant to even talk about him because that could be a figment of my imagination.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
it's too plain to me, and another boy or two saw him, so I guess it's true.
Then who was the next prisoner you saw after him?
The next one I saw was the man in charge of the Japs. Wounded him, and we took him inside where they had a little hospital set up, and we put him on a bed, and the prisoner didn't like that at all. And the nurses said in this little hospital they had set up, so they just carried him to the door and threw him out on the concrete. That was the second one that I, come face to face with. And we kept them holed up there during the night. And next day, I guess it was, or maybe I think the next day they made some kind of deal. Headquarters above us. Anyhow, we marched them to their lines and turned them loose. Made some kind of deal.
What was it? Oh, go ahead.
During the night, we got word to get to New Bilibid prison, that they was fixing to destroy it. And so we took it, which wasn't too big a deal.
Now, how did you secure Senator Moss to make sure the prisoners were safe?
Well, I had 2 machine guns stationed on top of the administration building. And we had all around yards around where we had them hemmed up in the administration building, and everybody else was deployed around the grounds. I don't know exactly where or how. And of course the tanks were stationed at strategic points.
What were the living conditions like in the prison?
Terrible, terrible. Those people were starving, and they were all so poor and weak, and it was terrible.
How many prisoners were there?
3,700. The saddest, I guess, is the little children, little pot bellies, and their little arms, just like skin hanging over 2 fingers or something. You can see both bones, and just almost starved to death. We gave away all of our rations that night. We gave them all to the prisoners. Didn't know where we was going to get anything to eat, but couldn't stand to see. And just anything they could do to try to stay alive.
And these are stories the prisoners told you?
Yeah.
What were some of the stories they told?
Well, about how they was treated and starved. I can't remember anything specific outside of this one couple telling about they ate this dog. And it was, they didn't want to talk about it much, and of course we didn't want to talk about it either, really, but we could observe what they were, a lot of them living in grass huts like you can see in the jungle. It's built out of palm leaves and such. And it's very, very crude and not much to eat.
Did they say how many prisoners had died of starvation while they were in there?
I can't remember the numbers, but there was lots of them. They were, I guess they were all Allied prisoners. They weren't all American. I think there was some of different origins. Outside of, they didn't have any Filipinos in there. I don't think it was just, they had them in different places. And I guess New Bilibid prison, I guess, was military prison. I guess that's where the GIs were, what survived.
I think they were from the Death March.
Mm-hmm.
Quite a few of those.
That night was real hairy. They started destroying the city, and then some of the worst explosions you ever heard in your life, and fires. And it was pretty hairy all night, but it began to straighten out later on. They would set on the main thoroughfares. They had Navy depth charges buried, and then an anti-tank mine on top of it to detonate. And it blew one of our tanks, blew the turret completely off of it, and cracked that tank. And killed everybody in it, the whole crew. Pretty hairy.
Do you ever reflect back on Santa Tomas?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I try not to often. I mean, dwell on it. Of course, I think of it.
Whenever anyone mentions Santa Tomas, what do you think of?
The first time I think of was all the people that were interned there. And really how little resistance we met taking it. I expected a fair-sized battle, which didn't occur. There was scrimmages, but I mean, we didn't run into all that much taking it. They all quit and hold up. We didn't lose many casualties. The tank driver that I was carrying the spotlight from, I turned around and handed it to him, and they killed him. The minute I handed him that light, I guess they could see him. Well enough shot him and killed him in the head. He was just peeking through the little turret, which just above his head. We had several casualties, not a large sum like the bunch that was in the center of town. Now they lost, I think they said 80%. They caught in a crossfire in the street. They were on the enemy on both sides, firing into them. They was lucky that any of them get out.
And how long did it take to take Billy-Butt?
Oh, it didn't take long. It was over with. I don't know how to judge the time, but it was over real quick.
Now, what shape were those prisoners in at Billy-Butt?
You know, I didn't see much of it because we returned to Santa Tomas as soon as it was under control and left a detachment there to take care of it. I actually didn't see any of the GI prisoners. I don't think there's something in there.
Were there any of the prisoners killed during the fighting in Santa Tomas?
I don't think there was any. I don't know why, because they come pouring out of the buildings. They knew we were there, you know, knew who we were and everything. Of course, they was running, hugging, and squeezing in. Everybody wanted to pat you on the back and think, you know, you didn't have to shake them loose because you had to pay attention to what you're doing. Get a bunch of people killed and stuff. But I don't remember, but I don't think there was any prisoners killed. Might have been some wounded. Well, I'm getting killed.
How long before you started getting rations into the people?
They started airdropping the next day, sometime late in the day. We went in there after night. I couldn't tell you what time, it was dark. But by the next afternoon, they had airdropped enough rations to feed the prisoners and replenish our rations.
And how long did you stay at Santa Tomas?
I want to say something like 3 days, counting. We started moving out, and everything was rescheduled and reoriented to what we was to do from there, and we started moving out from there.
Now, did they move the prisoners out then?
No, the prisoners stayed there. I don't know when they moved. The Japanese that we captured, we marched them to the front line and turned them in.
You said there was some deal work?
Yeah, they had some kind of deal. Headquarters worked out. I don't know in particular at all. they were released, which didn't amount to a whole lot. We had most of them back that evening.
What did you take the prisoners after you captured them?
We
Not the
didn't.
ones you let go, but
The ones we let go.
no, not the ones you let go, but the other prisoners. What did you do with them?
I don't know. We had some interpreters and intelligent people with us, and I think they took them somewhere and questioned them as to troops and weapons and such. I don't know where they kept them. Sure.
Where'd you go from there?
From there, we fought all over Manila till it was finally settled.
Did you go in the old city?
Hmm.
Did you go in the old
Yeah.
city?
And that was a terrible mess. The wall city. They killed civilians and children, and it was so horrifying. They rounded up a bunch of them into I think it was a church, some kind of a building, and then set it on fire, and machine gun them and everything. It was just a terrible, I guess a give-up action. They just don't take everything good with them or something. But it wasn't a thing in the world we could do about it. We couldn't rescue them. We was fighting all we could to get in there. And to me, it's real horrifying. The atrocities, like women coming out of there, one maybe having her arm shot off and carrying a baby that was already dead or shot, terrible wounded and such. And it was real sickening, real disturbing.
Did you end the war there in the Philippines?
Let's see, we made another amphibian landing there somewhere, and then we started training for the landing on Japan at Parker, and we were on ships training when the bomb was dropped.
What was your reaction to the bomb?
All of us was glad. But we already knew what we was going to run into in Japan, but they dug in and supplied and could have held off a long time. It would have been a bloody mess. So we were rather relieved.
What was your reaction when you were training for the invasion?
Get it, boy. Learn everything you could, and just stay in the best shape you can stay in.
What'd you do on VJ Day?
I think we drank a fifth of whiskey we'd smuggled on board this ship. And just kind of celebrate.
And did you go in for the occupation of Japan?
Yes. We went in, we passed the ship as they were saying, went into Yokohama. And there we started confiscating arms and military arms and vehicles and such. I don't know what all we did there. A lot of things. But we saw enough of it. We knew what we had dodged. I don't know whether they'd ever made a successful landing. Well, it would eventually got some on there, of course. But it sure would have cost a lot of lives. They were well fortified and dug back in the mountains with big guns and big, huge guns. Caliber or what, but it would have been long.
Any other details of Santo Tomas that you can recall? Any other stories?
Oh. No. One of this was kind of humorous as a little kid. We had met his mother, and a boy named Gene Robinson. We were sitting talking, and this little kid came by, and he recognized me and stopped to talk. We asked him where his mother was, and said, "Oh, she's down in the office." He called his hut his office, and they were unbelievably relieved, of course, and cheerful, and I guess probably the first chance they'd had to have any hope or anything else, I guess, at that time. There was lots of tales floated around, but I can't remember any of them right off. Some of them amusing, some of them just happenings there in the compound. But there was a lot of well-educated, wealthy people in there. One couple that I met, the man was a representative. Some blew the outfit in California. He represented the whole eastern, the whole area over there, distributing films and such. He had traveled all over that country, which that was pretty interesting to talk to him. The ones I felt the sorriest for was the nurses that was deserted and left there, our nurses, Army nurses. And they carried on their medical profession and took care of the prisoners and such. They were very, very heroic.
So it was Army nurses that went in and worked with the prisoners?
Yeah. See, they were captured there. When they evacuated the Philippines, there was, I don't know how many of those nurses were left there, but there were several there at St. Thomas University and some at New Bedford. And they had a hard time having to cope with their own troubles as well as everybody else's. But they had everything well organized and had them a little hospital room and 2 or 3 beds. Just did like troopers.
Would you do it again?
Yeah, I guess I would. Knowing what I know now, I'd hate to. If I was, at the time I was pretty patriotic, and I got a battlefield commission to a second time and all this crap, and the Bronze Star, and pretty gung-ho, but knowing how everything turned out afterwards, I don't know whether it's worth it or not. We give away half of what we took, made Japan the nation it is today, rebuilt it, and I don't know what is awful, you know. War is ridiculous to start with, but there's no way out of it. And at the time, that was my duty and my job, and I did it. But I wouldn't want to do it again.
Well, the first cav was a good unit. I was in the first cav
in
Vietnam.
It was a good outfit. I attended a old first cavalry reunion in San Antonio way back then. Right after Korea, I guess. They were in Korea. And they were a shook-up bunch, that the ones that left, that were still in. Evidently, they had it worse in Korea and Vietnam than we did in Ireland.
So when did you get your discharge?
45, I guess. Last part of 45. Late in 45, I don't know.
You go back?
Been somewhere around October or something.
Returned to Oklahoma?
Yeah. I didn't stay there long. I started working oil field, pro, and I started to re-enlist and would have re-enlisted if they'd have sent me to Europe. They wouldn't promise me I could go to Europe. I said, well, damn sure ain't going back to the Pacific, so we'll just get out. So I got out. I was a first lieutenant when I got out. I got a battlefield commission, and 90 days later or so, I was first lieutenant. And acting troop commander when we left Japan. Well, not when I left either, because I got sick and was in the hospital there a while in Japan.
Whenever you first got to the San Tomas, did you have trouble finding the gate?
No, we hit everything right on the money. And had a pretty good description of the buildings and situation of the buildings. Of course, there was some temporary stuff there we didn't know about.
Have any trouble crashing the gate?
No. We had a little bit of trouble. The tank driver got a little bit nervous or something and killed him just as he broke it down. But it worked out all right because we could go over the sides of the tank, the tracks. The gates weren't very wide, and the tank took up quite a bit of room, but you know, we got to pour in there.
Were you the first person inside?
I was either first or second or tied or something, because we went in from both sides.
What were you expecting?
I was expecting all hell to break loose. Honestly, I just knew we was going to meet rows of them, and was so surprised that we didn't. That every step from there on was, well, they're going to be here somewhere, you know. We had a little scrimmage as we went in. A little scrimmage off the left, and it looked like a banana grove like there on the grounds. And one or two other incidents, and we just kept driving towards the administration building.
Did the Japanese know you were coming?
I guess I don't think they knew until they heard us hit town. Of course, there was a lot of shooting and battling taking place when we hit town, because they were, I'm sure they had communications and knew that we was on our way there and be there in a minute. So they must have known a little ahead of time, because they did do some preparing.
Well, anything else?
I can't remember much about. I know when we moved out from San Tomas, we ran out of gasoline from them tanks, and we captured a gasoline dump that was aviation gasoline, I think, real high octane, but we used it in them tanks. We burned them up, but we used them. We got the use out of them.
Well, Mr. Minter, I want to thank you.
Well, you're welcome. I'm sorry I couldn't be any more help, but
that was good.
you know, it all gets kind of dim with time, and you try to forget some things anyhow.
Oh yeah, I understand that.
Being in Vietnam, I'm sure you do.
Okay.
There's a lot of stuff you'd like to forget all about.
Yep. Thank you.
As I understand it, there was 3 flying columns, but we was the one that made it. The other 2 didn't make it. We were supposed to, whoever made it, the others were supposed to come right on in anyhow and be supported. But it was, I think, days before they got in. They couldn't fight all the way through. We may have been lucky, and again, we might have been a little more gung-ho, but we got through.
Was there any opposition after you got in? Did the Japanese try to come in after you? Or?
They didn't counterattack right then, but they prepared for more or less on the defensive, and they were well prepared. Lost lots of men and had lots of hard times.
So did General Chase go in San Tomas with you?
I've seen him there, but I don't know when he came in.
So your main goal was just to take the prisoner, the prison,
Get there
and
and take the university and secure it.
Yeah.
That was our mission
And protect the
for
prisoners.
that day.
Yeah.
Protect the prisoners. We were, one of the things they were scared of, they'd start killing them or whatever. You know. And I guess the surprise worked pretty good, because there was 3 of us. We had 3 missions, and we accomplished 2 of them right off. That was pretty good, 2 out of 3.
Okay. Well, sir, appreciate it.
You're welcome. A lot of things. But we saw enough of it. We knew what we had dodged. It I don't know whether they'd ever made a successful landing. Well, it would eventually got some on there, of course. But it sure would have cost a lot of lives. They were well fortified and dug back in the mountains with big guns and big, huge caliber.